How is everyone doing? Welcome back to another episode of the Banker Next Door. I am your host, Dr. Joe Berquist. Today we are doing a review of Bank Director's 2024 Technology Survey. This is always one of my favorite surveys that comes out every year. If you want to know what technology banks are utilizing, what challenges and hurdles they're having implementing that technology, this is the survey for you to check out. So we're going to look at two things today. We're going to look at a quick article from Bank Director that just kind of introduces the survey, if you will, kind of gives you a little bit of information, kind of sets the stage. And then we're going to spend the bulk of the time on the survey itself. There's a number of things that I would like to run through here. The survey itself is about 35 pages. We're not going to, obviously, we don't have the time or we're not going to go through all of that. I'd put everybody to sleep by the end there. But we are going to hit on a lot of the key things that I think people will really like there. So let's jump into the article right here. So this is from Bank Director. This is called 2024 Technology Survey, Envisioning Your Bank's Future. Bank Director's 2024 Technology Survey gauges how bank leaders are thinking about strategy and resources, emerging technologies, and fraud. This article is written by Lauren Alex, who is a director of research at Bank Director. So, and she just starts off by saying, in Capital One Financial Corp's 2024 annual report, CEO and Chairman Richard Fairbank reminded shareholders of the tech-forward company's origins as a credit card bank centered around data analytics and statistical modeling. We were a technology company that does banking, he wrote, competing against banks that use technology, but it is not who they are. For most banks, technology is not a core part of their identity, but a means to achieving efficiencies or to better serve their customers. Few bank leaders identify their banks as innovators, according to the senior technology executives, CEOs, and directors participating in Bank Director's 2024 Technology Survey. This was surveyed by Jack Henry and Associates. But as community banks increasingly rely on data analytics to improve back office productivity and manage regulatory compliance duties, respondents point to several key gaps in their strategies around data, artificial intelligence, and technology more generally. As bank technology budgets continue to climb, the survey indicates that more banks could quantify the impact of those investments. Just 21% of respondents say their bank measures its return on investment for technology projects. That's a very good point there. And I think they make a great point there. Capital One, the CEO, basically they're saying that, hey, we were a tech company that did banking. He wrote, but we competed against banks that use technology, but that's not really who they were. And then you talked to a lot of the executives and CEOs, and they basically say that, like, yeah, we don't really look at ourselves as a tech company. We're a bank that utilizes technologies to create greater efficiencies and basically just run the business better. And I would agree with all those comments wholeheartedly. And banks at the end of the day, I think your average community bank, I mean, they really consider themselves, relationship lending is at the core of their very being. It's their DNA, it's who they are, it's what they do. And I think that's always how they will be and how they will look at themselves. Are some, probably much more into tech than others? Yes. But does that mean they view themselves as kind of like this innovative, cutting edge tech company? No, I don't think so. Could that continue to change over time? Yes, I think it could. But I think that if you're a community-based organization and you're focused on customer service and relationships, that is always going to be the core of what you do. Are you going to think of yourself as some like high flying fintech company? Like, no. Anyway, okay. So what were some of the key findings? A shifting view of competition, delayed projects, fraud concerns, tech budgets increase, hiring, particularly of developers, and board priorities. So we're gonna break down and take a look at all of those here now as we get into the report itself. So this is the 2024 Technology Survey, sponsored once again by Jack Henry. Okay, we kind of hit the executive summary. Okay, so let's go over these key findings here for a second here. So a shifting view of competition. So compared to prior surveys, respondents still identify local banks and credit unions, 52%, And big or super regional banks, 49% as their main competitive threats, along with neobanks that compete for consumer deposits at 43%. However, bank leaders report increased concern about the competitive threat posed by retailers such as Amazon and Walmart, with 12% citing them as a competitive threat compared to 5% a year earlier. So that's interesting. Delayed projects. 60% say one or more technology projects weren't completed on schedule over the prior 18 months, and 36% say they experienced issues integrating the new technology into existing systems. Just 21% say they had no issues with planned technology projects. Okay, here is a reality that I want to bring home for everybody. You go talk to your customers, right? Say you do a focus group. Focus group comes back and says, hey, we really love all these bells and whistles. We want a mobile app, and we want to be able to go online and just apply for the loan right over your website. And then we want to get that, we wanted that loan decision back in 10 minutes. And then we want to get our money in the next couple of days. And we want this to go real fast, boom, boom, boom. And we don't want the headaches and the hassle. We don't want to have to give you too much information. We don't want you to bother us for too much information. We just want to make it, quick, quick, quick. That all sounds great until you get to the realities of the bank actually providing that experience for you. So the bank has to worry about fraud, and we're going to talk about fraud here in just a second. But you work with the fintechs, even financial technology companies that have a stellar track record and have been around for decades. The fintechs will always come into the bank, and they will always promise you the moon. They will always say, we will deliver the greatest product on time, on budget, no problems, blah, blah, blah. Here's the reality. You're dealing with human beings. You go to put something in, you go to put a system in, and it doesn't want to work with this system, or it doesn't want to work with your core. And then you got to figure that out. And now you're like, okay, now you figured that out. You got that in there. Now you got to train the people. And then you start training the people. And then, oh, wait, there's glitches with the product. And then, so there's a lot in there. And again, the delayed projects, that's nothing new. That is very, very common. But then you also begin to understand the hesitancy on some bank executives as to like, do you want to do this product? What are the things that prevents a bank from doing certain things? Obviously the cost, number one. But number two is the headache of dealing with all this stuff. When you commit to spending the money, what do you have to do? Your job is now on the line. You go in there and say, yeah, we want to spend $300,000, $500,000, $1 million, and we want to bring in this brand new glistening system, or we want to do this or do that. Now your butt's on the line, and you've got to make it happen. You got to make it successful, because if it fails, or it doesn't work, or it doesn't get implemented properly, or it takes 5 years to make it a reality, that's not going to work. That's not going to work for the board. It's not going to work for the CEO. It's not going to work for the other executives. So yeah, there's a lot there. And I just say this because I'm hoping to give people a little insight, a little understanding to why, some things don't go maybe the way that you think that they would. So, okay. Tech budgets increase. So 75% say their bank's technology budget rose in fiscal year 2024 at a median 4% increase. A median 10% of that budget was devoted to new initiatives, according to respondents. So you have a bank budget. Okay, you're increasing 4%. Seems pretty normal, pretty standard. But when you break the budget down, only 10% of that budget is going to new initiatives. So in other words, if you've got I don't know, let's just say you got $1 million IT budget, only 10% of that, 100,000 is going to new initiatives. That's not a huge amount of money yes, that could buy you some things, but that's not like a huge chunk. 90% of your budget is basically there to maintain all the things you have. Your maybe beef up your cybersecurity, maintain maybe some of the reg tech and things that you have to Verifin and Q2 and some of these other companies that you have to work with year in and year out to just do all the everyday things you need to do in the bank and keep things rolling properly. Your networks, your hardware, your software, just all the ins and outs and general things that you have to go in there, all of the IT people you have to employ, all that stuff. So now here's the big enchilada. Fraud concerns. A majority, wait for it, 89% say they are more concerned about fraud in their bank's digital channels compared to last year. Check fraud, 80%. Phishing scams or socially engineered attacks, 53%. And digital payment fraud, 48%, are the top three types of fraud that worry respondents the most. I would almost be willing to bet that if you have a bank out there that is not providing online lending or they're not providing online account opening, the number one reason they aren't doing it is fraud. So again, just keep that in mind. Okay, fraud drives so many of the decisions that banks make. Because it's a massive concern, and there's so many different types of fraud out there. We didn't even touch wire fraud. Wire fraud's enormous, and they didn't even mention that on here. So, okay, hiring developers. Just a quarter of respondents say their bank employs developers or programmers, double the percentage who said as much a year ago. Banks over $1 billion in assets are more likely to make these hires. Yes, because they're the only ones that can afford them. Banks under $1 billion in assets, they can't afford to pay $180,000, $200,000 to have a programmer on staff. And then I think you have to ask the question of like, well, what is that programmer really doing for you? Yeah. So yeah, the size of the bank absolutely matters in that realm. So, and then finally, the last one, board priorities. 61% say that leveraging technology is a strategic priority for the board. Half of respondents say their board has a technology expert. Of those without a technology expert, 29% say their board is seeking to add one. So yeah, I would say it's, you got to have a technology expert on the board. You got to have somebody that knows a lot about, cybersecurity, networks, payment systems. Like, yeah, you got to have people that are well aware of all these different things that are going on. Okay. And let's take a quick look here. Let's just take a minute or two and just take a kind of run down some of these things. Strategy and adoption, one of the following. Which three do you consider to be the greatest competitive threat to your bank? 52% are local banks and our credit unions. 49% are big super regional banks, and then 43% neo-challenger banks that attract consumer deposits such as Chime. And then it gets 30% digital payment providers such as Square, Block, and PayPal, and then big tech companies such as Apple, Facebook, Meta, and Alphabet. So that kind of covers the big thing. And then obviously 12% of what we said, retailers such as Amazon and Walmart are garnering a little bit more attention yet again. So which delivery channel is more critical to your bank's growth strategy? 58%. Digital and the branch are equally important. 33% are digital and 9% say the branch. So I would kind of concur with the 58% that digital and branch are still equally important. How would you describe your bank's approach to new technology adoption? 57%, we tend to be a fast follower. 33%, we tend to be behind the curve on technology, or 10%, we tend to be an innovator. Yes, I would. Yeah. So one of the ways to look at this is you have what's called first mover advantage. If you want to be first out the door with the technology, I would say very, very few banks in this country are going to try to take, first mover advantage. I think a lot of banks, and again, what we see here, 57%, we tend to be a fast follower. And I think that's kind of where you want to be. You don't want to be, you don't want to be behind the curve on technology, but you want to be a fast follower. Also, I think a big distinction here too is, does your bank focus more on offense than defense? And what I mean by that is that I think there are a lot of banks out there that focus the bulk of their money on defense. Getting new technology to combat cybersecurity, to protect themselves from cybersecurity, for protect themselves from malware and ransomware and all the other stuff. So they might be. You might look at it's very interesting. You might look at a bank and you might say, "Oh, that bank's really behind the times. Look at them. Their website's not that great, or their mobile app's not that great, or whatever." It's like, and that may be true, but if you look at the back end of the bank, which nobody ever sees other than auditors or regulators and stuff like that, you might look at the back end of the bank and be like, wow, look at the technology these guys have, man. They are keeping their customers safe, and they're doing this and they're doing that. And that's something that I don't think gets as much probably doesn't get as much play as it should from banks. And then there are banks that spend more on the offensive side, in other words, like what I call like the front end of the bank, the customer facing end of the bank, your website, your mobile app, your different payment systems that you might offer the banks, whether it be Zelle or something else. There's a lot of banks that put a lot more money into that. They're the banks that typically have, Salesforce and NCino, and they're trying to, PNC Bank comes to mind, perhaps TD Bank. They're putting more money on that front end sales side because they're in growth mode. They're trying to grow the assets. They're trying to grow the bank. So like I said, it's just different philosophies out there depending on how, what your bank is trying to accomplish. I just think that's important to put out. So what is the primary objective that guides your bank's technology strategy? So obviously 49% is improving operational efficiency. 29% is attracting and retaining customers. Only 10% is growing low cost deposits. And then 7% is diversifying revenue. So interesting there. Next thing we get into is like servicing customers. Like, what digital capabilities does your bank offer to its retail customers? 79% deposit account onboarding, 69% person-to-person payments, 58% mortgage loan applications and or processing, and then 48% consumer auto loan applications. What digital capabilities does your bank offer to its small business customers? So 73% treasury management or cash management, 58% deposit account onboarding, 56% integration with accounting systems. That's nice. 47% loan application processing, 37% real-time payment capabilities, 37% account payable capabilities, 27% payroll services, and so on. Do you believe it is important that your bank offer real-time payment capabilities to the following clients? Retail customers, 84% said yes. Small businesses, 85% said yes. So obviously, real-time payments, payment systems in general are, continue to become kind of a more important thing as consumers and small businesses really want that. And obviously then the technology gets better too. So, all right. And then this is kind of like, what does your bank offer any of the following loans over digital channels? I did an episode last week called How Banks Can Improve Their Digital Lending. I would highly recommend people go check out that episode because it ties, directly into this. And I just want to see if there's anything else out here and this is kind of investments. So over the past 18 months, has your bank upgraded or implemented any of the following to enhance customer experience or improve efficiency? So 53% said payment capabilities. There you go. 46% digital retail account opening, 37% digital business account opening, 32% data analytics platforms capabilities, 31% business digital lending. So, and then 30% fraud resolution. There you go. 28% chatbots or similar automated communications, 27% digital marketing platforms. So, so again, interesting, good investments, things that you would expect. What drove you to make these technology investments over the past 18 months? Strategic objectives, 67%. So there you go. All right. So a lot, again, and there's a lot of, and we only scratched the surface. We only got to about page 16. There's another 20 pages of really good questions and comments and stats here on this. So I would highly recommend everybody kind of run through. Again, check out the 2024 technology survey. Great survey there from Bank Director, as well as the other surveys that they do throughout the year. So, and definitely check out bankdirector.com. There is links down in the description below to the Bank Director article and the 2024 technology survey if you want to go check those out. But I'll wrap up with this now. If you like this episode, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, as that always helps the channel. Please remember, we are on YouTube, Rumble, and all major podcast platforms. Please be sure to leave your comments down below, as I always love getting back to everybody. Remember, live stream every Friday night, BND Strategy Room, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm always on there live if you want to come on and interact. Sometimes I have guests. Sometimes I just go through all the business of banking for the week. But definitely don't forget to check that out, as well as other videos and content that I put up on the channel. I hope everybody has an awesome rest of the day, and I will be back again real soon. Thanks a lot.